The proud and charming princess of ancient and modern times versus the protector of the black belly grand wealth. Princess Qin Xi of Dajing was reborn from her corpse to Li Yunxi, a small internet celebrity on the 18th line of the Chinese Dynasty. As soon as she opened her eyes, she faced thousands of people cursing. Later on, director of costume dramas in the entertainment industry. Please, let the children go. In the future, our server chemistry will definitely go through teacher Li's review first. Li Yunxi is not only crazy in the entertainment industry, but also in the food and fashion circles. National treasure level state banquet master. I feel inferior to Miss Li's understanding of ancient palace banquets. Thank you to Miss Li for contributing the authentic recipe of the Dajing Palace banquet. Internationally renowned designer. Miss Li's use of Chinese elements can be described as excellent, and our studio welcomes her to join us. Black fans. So, the local dog is actually me. Xie Jin didn't know when he had become a person with a disability and his life was not long. He felt that his life for the first 25 years of his life was calm and unremarkable, until he met a proud and charming little princess. From now on, I am willing to become a guard by the princess's side and a vassal under her skirt fans. Hey that bodyguard, the plot needs not to escalate to real people. Key words of the novel. Gu Chuanjin. His Royal Highness Princess blew up the entertainment circle without a pop-up window. Gu Chuanjin. His Royal Highness Princess blew up the entertainment circle. Download the complete works of TXT. Gu Chuanjin. His Royal Highness Princess blew up the entertainment circle. Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Resurrection from Death. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Resurrection from Death, real-life version of Farmer and Snake. LYX, a newly rising actress from the entertainment industry's 18th tier, performs poorly in live streaming and cannot directly see anyone, making her a model of lack of professionalism in the industry. Despite relying on her sister to rise to power, she has repeatedly embarrassed her sister in public. Li Yunxi. Are you dead? What did you do so late? Why didn't Meng answer your phone? Do you know how worried she is about you? I tell you, don't think that having tens of thousands of fans in a small web drama is just amazing. People like you who are useless, if you don't have our Li family, you are nothing. If you are sensible, come back with me immediately and apologize to Meng. Also, your company's live broadcast. If Meng hadn't taken care of it for you, they would have sued you for breach of contract now. Can you afford to pay a penalty of 5 million yuan for breach of contract? In the empty living room, Li Hun's irritable voice echoed. He kicked a chair next to the dining table to the ground with one foot, making a sharp and piercing, clang sound. On the other side, the girl sat on the sofa with her eyes drooping, staring blankly at the wound on her wrist that was slowly dripping blood. On the ground beside me, a large puddle of crimson blood had already permeated. The irritable male voice echoed in his ears, causing Li Yunxi to frown in displeasure. Shut up. What are you, dare you bark in front of this palace? The girl's voice was a bit cold and slightly hoarse. Li Hun couldn't believe it and dug out his ear. What did you say? Say it again. Did this quail-like sister just scold him? Also, is she crazy? I just filmed a small web drama and became addicted to playing the lead role. Returning to the main palace. The girl was beautiful and furrowed slightly, enduring the dizziness caused by the extra memory fragments in her mind, while unable to bear the annoying noise. I said, after the dog barks, get out. Her voice was slightly cold, and her aura seemed to have changed from person to person, making Li Hun instinctively want to listen to her and get lost. Oh no, leave. At the same time, a white shadow flashed past, and Li Hun instinctively avoided it. Click and wipe, a glass cup shattered on the wall. Just a little short, the cup came straight at my forehead. Li Hun was stunned for a moment, but when he realized it, he became furious, his face slightly flushed, and pointed at her in a fit of anger. All right. You have developed skills. If you dare to tell me to leave, you dare to smash me. Okay, you're amazing. If you have the ability, you can handle this on your own. Don't ask for a penny from the butler anymore. Li Hun was originally ordered by his parents to handle the matter of his just-found sister. She had just been found back and knew nothing, so she insisted on learning from Yunmeng and entering the entertainment industry. Her family even spent money on a small online drama for her, and Meng Meng even introduced her to an entertainment company using her personal connections. What about the outcome? The mountain chicken is the mountain chicken. Even if you put on feathers, you can't become a phoenix. Just 3 months ago, I was sued by someone else's company for being negligent in my work. He came over with good intentions, but he didn't even appreciate it. Li Hun slammed the door and left, but he wanted to see what kind of flower his sister could make in the entertainment industry without the Li family. The house has been restored to quietness. Li Yunxi hesitantly stretched out his still bleeding wrist to examine. The skin on it was radiant, although it had turned slightly bluish due to blood loss, it was not that sickly pale. This is not her hand. Huaxia. Li Yunxi. She murmured to herself. At the last moment, she was still recuperating in another courtyard in the suburbs of Beijing due to the poison entering her lungs. So fast, I died and reincarnated again. The memory fragments that suddenly appeared in her mind made Li Yunxi frown, and 4 words suddenly popped out of her mind. Borrow, corpse, return, soul. And as soon as he was resurrected from the dead, he was cursed with lightning speed, covering his ears and stealing bells. It's so reckless. If it were in dying, she would definitely make this person unable to see tomorrow's sun. Li Yunxi tightened his fist and slammed it onto the coffee table in front of the sofa. Click. The modern minimalist-style coffee table, priced at several tens of yuan, collapsed in response. Li Yunxi. Looking at the short table that was damaged by her punch, for some reason, she felt inexplicably guilty. However, apologize. It's impossible to apologize in this lifetime. There is no one in this world who can make Princess Dajing bow down and apologize in a grand manner. And live streaming. Li Yunxi finally retrieved relevant memories from his mind. The original owner was a young lady born to the Li family, but when she was a child, she was unexpectedly held by the wrong person. As a young lady who had just been brought back by the Li family, she inexplicably had a fiancé A.E. who had been seriously ill for many years and had just passed away. She was the biological daughter of the Li family's wealthy couple, but compared to her adopted daughter Li Yunmeng, she seemed more like a stranger with blood ties to her family. Fish and bear paws cannot be eaten at the same time, but the Li family never thought of returning the wrong adopted daughter to Li Yunxi's adoptive father's family. After all, they have been raising her for 18 years and the family affection they have paid cannot be separated. Moreover, Li Yunmeng, the current miss of the Li family, has excellent academic performance, outstanding talent, and beautiful appearance. She entered the entertainment industry since college and has now become a third-tier flower. Whenever she comes to the Li family, they feel proud. On the other hand, Li Yunxi, a rural girl with a timid personality, had no advantages except for her excellent academic performance from childhood to adulthood. She is in the Li family, like an outsider, out of place with this magnificent family and relatives. And it seems that all those who occupy the magpie's nest like to take others' things for granted as their own. After Li Yunxi was found back, Li Yunmeng felt sweet and bitter on his face. He was overjoyed and cried for his parents and brother, expressing that he would love Li Yunxi as if he were his biological sister. On the other hand, Li Yunxi found an unknown wild chicken entertainment company and signed a huge penalty sales contract. The other party promised to let her start accumulating fans from internet celebrities and then participate in this September's talent show to debut. The wild chicken company set up a makeup that could attract attention for Li Yunxi, but Li Yunxi was scolded by netizens for being completely exhausted. In the first few months of her Weibo account, there were also people waxing under P's photo every day. She once tried to communicate with her agent about whether she could change her image, but was hit back by the other person's statement, "Black and red are also red." For a full 3 months, Li Yunxi's live streaming frequency increased from once a week to twice a week, and the number of times he received scolding also increased. Just before tonight's live broadcast started, Li Yunxi mentioned it to his agent again because he was afraid of seeing those cursed words again. As a result, agent Chen Jixin put on a face and asked her in reverse, "Do you have a better understanding of the market than our professional team? Understand the preferences of the audience. You also know the strength of our company. Several big internet celebrities with millions of fans are all promoted by our company. If it weren't for your sister's face, a mediocre company like you wouldn't have signed you and even asked me to act as your agent." So Li Yunxi still conducted this live broadcast, which was also her last live broadcast. When she opens her eyes again, she becomes her. That person just now was Li Yunxi's biological brother, also known as Li Han, the head of the Li family. Compared to his biological parents, this older brother finds it harder to accept having a useless younger sister. On weekdays, she is the first to be blamed for her indifference and harsh words, regardless of the truth when something happens. What a big and prosperous white lotus. What a loving family. Li Yunxi gave a playful smile. There is a saying that goes, "I don't know the true face of Mount Lu, only because I am in this mountain." How can such a family be worthy of the original owner's humiliation? Since she has such a connection with the original owner, she will reluctantly seek justice for her. 9 o'clock in the evening, it is the hottest golden time for the Crescent Live platform. While singing and dancing in various live broadcast rooms and being constantly screened by the Sports Car and Rocket Carnival, in a live broadcast room called Princess Xie is the cutest, it is full of anger. Anchor Princess Xie has a 2-hour live broadcast task tonight, but she left half an hour after starting the live broadcast. The agent couldn't reach her phone number, so they called Li Yunmeng, and that's when Li Han rushed over and scolded her. Upon seeing the anchor return, the black fans, like dogs smelling meat buns, quickly began their business. Looking at the cover, did this anchor come from an ancient dinosaur species? What nonsense is said upstairs? Princess Xie is the daughter of the beloved family, with a devil's horn on her head, fiery red hair, and smoky facial features. TSK TSK TSK, it's amazing. What you said is diverse. Those who don't know think you're praising others. This is the ceiling of my life. Haha, you can't let me have a heart attack alone. Brothers, don't miss it when passing by. Thank you for inviting me. I was amazed by the princess. Li Yunxi looked expressionless as rows of text flickered above the thing called computer in front of him. I believe these should be the barrage that brought Xiao Yunxi to suicide. She struggled to admit a few words, and sure enough, they all scolded her. After a faint glance, Li Yunxi sneered contemptuously at the camera. Ha! The jumping clown's ear. Then, ignoring the increasingly fierce curses on the barrage due to her words, she began to seriously study the makeup remover she had just found on the bedroom dressing table in her hand. Princess Dajing of the Tang Dynasty, Li Yunxi would never allow himself to bear the current dignity and face criticism. After all, the year when I even died was unparalleled. The black fans were so awesome that they sent the live broadcast room to the hot list on the home page. Many passers-by accidentally clicked in and found that although the anchor had flashy makeup, his back was straight and his expression was focused, looking at a bottle in his hand, not knowing what he was doing. Hey! What strange art style is this? Immersive experience. Out of curiosity, the passers-by stopped for a while longer. The live broadcast room was filled with dirty language and malicious curses. A passerby couldn't bear to watch anymore and said, "Tisk, is it really good to curse the anchor like this? Suddenly, the anchor who had been staring intently at the bottle in his hand moved. Her right little finger curled up slightly due to inertia, and she extended two bright white fingers to twist a white cotton sheet on the table. She poured something out of the small bottle onto the cotton sheet. Elegant movements, neither tight nor slow. Everyone's gaze couldn't help but follow those two fingers and move to the face of the anchor, whose facial features were not clearly visible. And then I found out that the anchor actually, starting to remove makeup from the live broadcast camera. The mirror of the Xie Dynasty is quite useful, even clearer than the glass of the Dewan Kingdom. Li Yunxi looked at himself so clearly on the screen and exclaimed in admiration from the bottom of his heart. Black fan. Laugh to death, treat the live broadcast camera like a mirror. Sure enough. A mountain chicken is a mountain chicken, even with feathers inserted, it cannot become a phoenix. 1 minute later, the barrage suddenly felt like the pause button had been pressed. Everyone shout welcome to Posi's new book, please give me a lot of guidance. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Reverse. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Reverse Sleeping Slot. Am I blind? Believe me, you're not alone upstairs. You're not alone +1, you're not alone +2. The first floor reacted and quickly said. Roll on, don't think I don't know you're conniving at me. Then, the speed of the barrage flickering was faster than the speed of the previous black fan's cursing. Why just this looks, I've been blackmailing her for 3 months. Ladies and gentlemen, do you not object to me saying that this is the fairy sister Benxian? Mom asked me why I need to lick the screen, and I said there's too much gray on the phone screen. I'll wipe it. Princess Cece, after removing her makeup, has a standard oval face with fair and tender skin, a rosy complexion, and clear lip lines. A pair of slightly lifted apricot eyes, clear eyes, not completely removed light purple eye shadow properly outlines a sense of charm. When not smiling, it looks very cold and attractive, aggressive. Her skin is soft and beautiful, while her bones are cold and beautiful. In the words of the Xie Dynasty, it means looking very sophisticated. At this moment, she placed her hands on her knees and sat straight on the chair with her knees on her side, like a lady from ancient times. Noble, elegant, yet cold and gorgeous. She looked straight at the camera, as if through the screen she could see the depths of each of them, her voice cold. According to the laws of the Xie Dynasty, if the perpetrator insults others online, it may constitute the crime of insult. Those who publicly insult others through violence or other means, and the circumstances are serious, shall be sentenced to fixed term imprisonment of not more than 3 years, detention, public surveillance, or deprivation of political rights. Both passers-by and the black fans who turned to lick the screen on the barrage were stunned. So later, I will report to the police and let them handle the online violence you have committed against me over the past 3 months, including but not limited to verbal abuse, insults, threats, peas photos, sending blades, and other behaviors. The internet is not an illegal place, and holding such great malice towards a stranger you have never met. Do you have a wife and daughter? Do you have an old mother? Finally, the domineering beauty let out a sigh, her voice suddenly becoming mournful, causing the audience in front of the screen to also tug at her heart. She said, when the snow mountain collapses, no snowflake is innocent. The original owner's death, although not entirely due to the keyboard warriors hidden behind the internet cables, is also closely related to them. It only took Li Yunxi 10 minutes to appear, finish her makeup, and then leave after saying those words, leaving netizens with endless imagination. She will avenge the original owner, these people are just beginning. Isn't that person trying to ruin her through rumors in this circle? She insisted on taking this opportunity to reach a height that everyone could look up to and that person could never reach. Half an hour later. #shocking. Xie Divine Beauty #Gen CC Princess Lawyer's Letter Warning #The Radiant Life of Killing Mats counterattack these entries, along with a comparison of the makeup and makeup removal of a female anchor named Princess Xie, were posted on Weibo and skyrocketed to hot search with tens of thousands of clicks per minute. It turned out that during the live broadcast, someone took a screenshot and posted it online at some point. Comments from netizens at this moment. Sleeping slut, isn't this my wife? I didn't even know her live streaming account and Weibo. Versatile netizens, come and help me find my wife. Just came back from Princess Xie's Weibo account, crooked sun, peas photo, lit 3 months white candles. It's still unfortunate that Princess Xie is miserable. Oh my. Her official words were so impressive. And her eyes, ah. I was hit. Don't be fooled by love, it might just be a marketing tactic. Those people's lawyers' letters warn them to just talk casually. It's not just that Li Yunxi casually called the police number. As law-abiding citizens, we should be adept at using legal weapons to protect ourselves. Because it was the city center, the police arrived at Li Yunxi's residence half an hour later. Wrap a towel around your wrist, the pure white towel has been soaked in blood for a long time. Li Yunxi sat there with a straight back, calmly telling the police what had happened. Because it was a young girl who reported to the police at night, in addition to 2 male police officers, one old and one young, a female police officer was specially sent to the police station when they called out. The female police officer heard the party claiming that she was deceived into a wild chicken company due to her youth and ignorance, and signed an unequal contract. The company even forced her to seek benefits for the company in ways that insulted her personality, such as making a fool of herself, against the party's wishes. And she has experienced 3 months of online violence, with social media channels such as Weibo, mobile text messages, and email constantly being bombarded with various vicious or disgusting words. Even some black fans have located her IP and sent her blades and bloody dolls, sometimes being tracked and reasonably suspecting that her life's safety is at risk. Just now, she committed suicide because she couldn't bear the words that were enough to make people feel overwhelmed. The female police officer's hand holding the pen tightened slightly. The elderly police officer was also browsing the content on Weibo and text messages handed over by the girl, and frowned after reading them. He saw the dignified sitting posture and calm gaze of the girl. If it weren't for the long cut on her wrist, it's hard to imagine such a girl going through such a thing and even cutting her wrist to commit suicide. This is a child who woke up in time and narrowly escaped death. Okay, we have understood the situation. Miss, you are right. The internet is not an illegal place. Such behavior of openly posting malicious insults, threats, and threats on the internet is serious and constitutes a criminal offense. Our police station will take this matter seriously. We need screenshots of the content in our Weibo and live streaming accounts as evidence, so we need to take our phones with us. Later, please ask Miss Li to come with us to the police station to make a record, and then bring our phones back. As for the issue of the contract, as Miss Li has reached adulthood, we suggest that you have a lawyer cooperate with the appeal to protect your legitimate rights and interests. After the older police officer finished speaking, he kindly asked again. Little girl, do you have anything else to add? After thinking for a moment, Li Yunxi suddenly tilted his head and said. I hope the police uncle can make decisions for me. She remembers those children saying that. Officer. Thank you, I was adorable. After coming out of the police station, Li Yunxi was taken by a caring female police officer to the nearest hospital. The hospital at night only has on-duty doctors, but it is busier than during the day. The female police officer sent her to the emergency room, and the young doctor on duty was very popular due to tonight's surge in emergency patients. Seeing that she was brought by the police, she looked very young and had dyed her hair red and green. She had a big cut on her wrist and was wrapped in a towel with unknown bacteria. A delinquent girl who has successfully attempted suicide. The anger accumulated by the on-duty doctor all night suddenly erupted. Why don't you come later? The blood hasn't dried up yet. You just don't want to live anymore, right? Are you afraid that the wound won't get infected with this torn towel? Li Yunxi frowned throughout, listening to the young doctor's angry words. But she also knows that being a doctor doesn't have a good temper. In dying, the more skilled the doctor is, the more irritable and eccentric his temperament becomes. Now she is a stranger in a strange place. She is a prey. Her Royal Highness Princess said that she had endured. The young doctor vented his anger for a while, only to see the little girl pursing her lips without saying a word. He only then noticed that the girl with colorful hair had such a beautiful face. A noble and cold little face was now prepared as if facing a great enemy, with a deep gaze filled with some eager curiosity, giving off a sense of contrast and cuteness. The movements on my hands unconsciously became lighter, and I felt a bit uncomfortable as I said. If I hit hard, just say it. The girl just frowned slightly and shook her head. After disinfection, the color of the purple medicine made the skin at Li Yunxi's wound look even more ferocious compared to other areas. The female police officer hissed when she looked at it. Then, the girl looked curiously at the doctor holding a small pair of tweezers and a short and thin needle in his hand. He quickly sewed a dozen or so butterfly-like stitches on her wrist. After stitching, Li Yunxi took advantage of the fact that she had not yet wrapped herself in gauze and admired the masterpiece on her wrist. The doctor heard the girl who had not spoken a word since entering suddenly say, "Thank you, doctor. You stitched it up very well. The sound is like pearls rolling jade, cold and pleasant to the ear." I don't know why, but the irritable doctor was instantly cured with a somewhat proud expression. "You have vision, don't be so foolish next time." Not to mention other departments, in their emergency department, if his surgical suture technique dares to be second, no one dares to be first. Coming out of the hospital, it was already late at night. The female police officer took a taxi and wanted to take her home. Li Yunxi shook his head and politely declined, "No need, it's already late. You should go back first." The female police officer disagrees. "It's so late now, how can she let a teenage girl go back alone? Especially this girl has just experienced something like that." So the female police officer firmly said, "No, I'll take you back first. I'm on duty tonight, and I happened to pass by your house when I got back to the police station." Li Yunxi's refusal was ineffective and he was stuffed into a taxi. On the way, the female police officer saw her sitting with her hands on her knees and her figure still straight, obediently, but her head kept looking out of the car window. She smiled and asked her, "How's it going? You haven't seen the southern city at this time yet, have you?" She is not like a doctor, who at first glance identifies her as a delinquent girl because of her colorful hair. She knows that this is the image created by the entertainment company that the girl claims to be. Her eyes were clear and her every move was methodical, like a noblewoman trained in a big family. Exuding a faint arrogance and unfamiliarity with the world. Seeing her, the female police officer suddenly thought of a sentence. There is a poetic and scholarly aura in her abdomen. Li Yunxi looked at the dazzling lights outside the glass window, feeling dazed. Upon hearing this, he turned around and nodded slightly. "Yes, it's my first time seeing you. The night scenery of the Xie Dynasty is colorful, brilliant and lively. And these houses with sharp edges and straight into the sky are completely different from their dying. Moreover, this place is called Nanqing. It's really amazing. I suddenly died and was reborn on a girl with the same name with the word 11 on her. As Princess Dying, although she only lived to be 20 years old in her previous life, she witnessed several strange events, and the person involved was herself. Therefore, Li Yunxi accepted the idea of using her body to revive her soul well. It's the father, the emperor, the mother, the imperial brothers, and the younger brothers, who will definitely be sad in Xie Jin. Li Yunxi understood in his heart that if it weren't for Lord Lao Chi from the Imperial Academy, she might have died 2 years ago when she was just poisoned. It was Lord Lao Chi who used a secret technique to keep her breathing for 2 years, just to wait for that holy lotus. But ultimately, I haven't waited yet. The taxi arrived at the entrance of the community. Li Yunxi got off the car. I once again rejected the plan of the female police officer to send her up. The female police officer knew that this community was a well-known high-end community in the city center, and the security issues were still very good, so she did not insist. Okay, it's getting late. You should go up and rest early. Oh, by the way, Yunxi, my name is Chen Lin. If you have any difficulties in the future, you can call me at this number as long as I can be of help. Chen Lin took out a business card with her personal number on it. Although she didn't know why she had to sign with that unreliable entertainment company, Chen Lin couldn't help but remind her. At your age, it's best to focus on studying. If you encounter any difficulties during the termination process, you can also contact me. Perhaps I can be helpful. Upon hearing this, Li Yunxi pursed her lips and took the business card handed over by Chen Lin. Okay, Sister Chen Lin, I got it. Also, thank you. Xie Dynasty. Apart from being no longer a grand and esteemed princess, and aside from the mess left by the original owner, there seems to be nothing wrong with her. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Xie Jin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Xie Jin. It takes about 15 minutes to walk from the entrance of the community to the building where she is located. Arriving downstairs, Li Yunxi suddenly stopped in his tracks. Your Excellency has been with me for so long, don't you plan to appear? The surroundings were quiet, and she felt as if someone was just her illusion. But Li Yunxi won't make a wrong judgment. The bloody smell is not the same as the wound on her wrist. She stood there with one hand on her back and didn't go in, just waiting quietly. Under the light, the girl's figure was tall and slender. Not far away from the street lamp, a low branch suddenly moved, and a tall man suddenly emerged from behind the lamp post. He covered his waist with one hand and placed the other behind his back. Ha! The man chuckled lightly, his voice carrying a unique laziness, casual and charming. Child, it's not good to be so sharp. Xie Jin. The girl's voice was sudden and surprising, causing Xie Jin soon to blurt out words to be blocked in his throat. He narrowed his dangerous black eyes and asked in response, Do you know me? As he spoke, his hand behind his back showed its veins, like a venomous snake waiting for an opportunity to move. You don't recognize this palace anymore. Xie Jin. Should he recognize her? Li Yunxi looked at his still vigilant gaze, his excited expression slowly returning to normal, then turning into a cold and serious expression. You're not Xie Jin. After speaking, she showed no interest in the man who only had a similar face to Xie Jin and walked straight into the elevator. However, just as she took a few steps, a strong aura came from behind. Li Yunxi's expression in his eyes changed slightly, and he instinctively dodged. As soon as I turned around, I found that the man just like Xie Jin was fighting with a man in black. He should have been injured, so his movements were a bit sluggish, but he didn't fall behind the other person at all. He can handle one, but what about 2 or 3? Li Yunxi's eyes lit up with a hint of interest when he saw the sudden emergence of 3 people in black. It turns out that the Xie Dynasty, like their dying, would have assassins at night. As she watched the man gradually show signs of decline, she smiled and asked. Hey, can I help you? Xie Jin, who was fighting with someone, hesitated in his movements and was discovered by the other party. He also had a cut on his arm. But he didn't panic at all and answered with a smile. Child, mind your adult affairs and hurry back to wash and sleep. The 3 people besieging Xie Jin only then saw a little girl in the shadow of the corridor. The 3 of them glanced at each other and saw a hint of cruelty in their eyes. Suddenly, one of the 3 separated and walked towards the corridor. Xie Jin's eyes were slightly cold. He just hid, just not wanting to implicate the innocent, but this little girl insisted on uncovering his whereabouts, preferably with some skill, otherwise 3 people turned into 2, and Xie Jin became more adept at handling it. Quickly, the 2 black-clad men smashed heavily towards the ground and fainted. Xie Jin quickly walked towards the quiet corridor without a sound. A strong wind suddenly came towards him, and he instinctively extended his arm to resist. A blue figure appeared in front of him. "It's her." Xie Jin breathed a sigh of relief. "What kind of person are you?" The 2 of them asked at the same time, then looked at each other and fell silent. Then, Xie Jin put on the harmless and demonic smile on his face. "Child, your skills are not bad. These people can chase him from the western continent to the eastern continent, and they are all famous figures on the list. However, this little girl can easily deal with them, it's not easy." Li Yunxi also nodded, indicating that he had received praise from the other party. "On this matter, you are 1 against 3, and your skills are also good." Xie Jin curled his lips and smiled, but because of the little girl's next sentence, his smile froze at the corner of his mouth. "I see that your bones are unique and your skills are excellent. Do you have any intention of becoming my guardian?" "Guardians?" The next morning, Xie Jin lay in a strange place, staring blankly at the chandelier above his head. He actually came to work as a bodyguard for a little girl. On the sofa, the black phone screen lit up. "Boss, please rest assured and recuperate first. The traces from last night have been cleaned up, and the rest will be left to us." The man just deleted this text message without a number, and the bedroom door opened. A figure walked out slowly. Walking smoothly like gentle clouds, swirling and fluctuating. If you look closely, you will find that the distance she takes each step seems to be well measured, with an indescribable charm. Xie Jin squinted his eyes and looked at the approaching figure. Where's the breakfast in this palace?" The girl yawned elegantly and looked at the empty dining table, her voice warm and cool. She glanced at the clock on the wall and saw that it was exactly 8 a.m. North City time. "It's already Mao hour." A tall man of 1.8 meters sat up from the sofa and said, "Are you sure you hired a bodyguard?" Xie Jin kindly reminded, "I am a bodyguard. Not a nanny." Li Yunxi frowned and said, "I know you're a bodyguard, can you still let me cook by myself?" Which of her guards is not decathlete? Get it? The new employer's natural tone quickly took Xie Jin to the ditch. If it weren't for the little girl's message being sent to his phone last night, he would have suspected that he was haunted. The true daughter of the Li family, who has just been brought back from the countryside, has a cowardly personality and is useless, and is not favored by the Li family. As soon as I returned, I made a scene in the entertainment industry and even starred in a street drama, which is currently being hacked by the entire internet. But where did the little girl he saw come from? A sense of aloofness and aloofness. The temperament in every move is much more elegant and noble than those socialites in the North City. What is the Li family's perspective on this? And the killer who was easily knocked down by her last night, is this useless? Xie Jin doesn't understand. But now he seems to have to accept his fate to make breakfast. Dong dong dong, a knock on the door rang out. The little girl sitting on the sofa, watching the TV in front of her, remained motionless and shouted in the direction of the kitchen. "Xie Jin." Xie Jin, who heard a knocking on the door and stood alert at the kitchen door, said, "Dot." He opened the door, and outside was the young man from the same city who was urgently seeing him off. The young man revealed his standard 8 big white teeth and said, "Hello, is this Miss Li's house?" "This is her delivery." Xie Jin looked at the box in the little brother's hand with a cold face and said, "Yes." The little brother was not affected by the cold air around him at all, and pointed to the signature on the box. "Okay, sir, could you please sign for it on your end?" After signing for it, the young man bowed with a bright smile and said, "Thank you for using local express delivery. Wishing you a happy life. Xie Jin, with a cold expression, held the box in his hand and threw it onto the sofa. You're so close to the door, why don't you open it yourself? He is really a bodyguard, not a nanny. Why do we have to make breakfast again and open the door to pick up the package? Li Yunxi felt the sudden weight sinking around her and lifted her eyes to look displeased at the man who disturbed her while watching the drama. Is this your attitude towards this palace? Xie Jin. Girl, are you the protagonist acting crazy? But Royal Highness Princess did not realize it, but looked at Xie Jin with warning. Next time, you can leave. It's just a man who looks similar to Xie Jin, not really Xie Jin. Xie Jin. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Leaving the Li family. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Leaving the Li family. Li Yunxi then turned his gaze back to the box on the sofa. Opening the outer box, there is a thick book inside, with a thick brownish-red cover and 4 large gilded characters on top. Chinese law. Xie Jin has read fashion magazines, Chinese and foreign classics, and comics and novels, but it is still the first time he has seen someone reading legal books so much. With great interest. Moreover, the little girl turns pages one by one, with a posture of 10 lines at a glance. She only spent half a day flipping through a book of over 30,000 pages of Chinese laws. Yes, it's over. Xie Jin doesn't think she has finished reading it. Xie Jin, water. He had been a transparent person in the room for most of the day, and the little girl only remembered his presence when he was serving tea and pouring water. Then, he saw the little girl wandering around the room, with an extra business card in her hand. Sister Chenlin, I am Li Yunxi. Yes, I need a lawyer. Okay, thank you. I've settled the matter and invited you to dinner. I have a bodyguard who is very skilled in cooking. For sentences, the call is over. Xie Jin, who was arranged clearly, said, He is really just a bodyguard. Li Yunxi ignored the protesting gaze of the bodyguard and said calmly. Let's go, there's no need to cook at noon. Let's go eat outside. Then he returned to the room and changed into a long dress, throwing a document bag into Xie Jin's arms. What is this? Li Yunxi was thinking about what jewelry he should wear today, and upon hearing this, he casually replied. Contract. Just now, Sister Chenlin said that she should bring the contract to Jincheng law firm. Seeing the little girl's figure disappear into the closet, Xie Jin opened the file bag in his hand. When the newly dressed Li Yunxi appeared in front of him again, Xie Jin looked at her, his eyes not hiding their amazement. The little girl already has delicate facial features, and dressing up like this makes her even more dazzling. How's it going? Does it look good? Li Yunxi turned around, this was her first time dressing up like this. The Xie Dynasty was indeed different from their dying. Li Yunxi looked at himself in front of the mirror, feeling like something was missing. Suddenly, she saw Xie Jin's sunglasses pinned on his coat, and her eyes lit up. She found a wide sun hat and put on dark sunglasses, barely satisfied. It looks nice, but... Xie Jin didn't understand. How could you sign such a contract? Did God give her unparalleled beauty but take away her brain? 19 points. Unconditionally comply with the company's arrangements. Will she bear all the losses? A penalty of 5 million yuan for breach of contract. Anyone with a brain would not sign such a contract equivalent to a contract of sale, would they? I didn't sign this. It was signed by the original Li Yunxi. In fact, she hasn't seen this contract yet. Xie Jin realized that it was someone else asking her to sign, and thinking of her identity, Xie Jin felt a little clear in his heart. It is easy to transition from frugality to luxury, but it is difficult to transition from luxury to frugality. How can we easily let go of something that we have obtained? On the other side, Chen Lin was also surprised. She didn't expect to receive a call from the little girl so soon. But without hesitation, she quickly called her old classmate and asked him to help this kind child. So, the cold and charming girl with her bodyguard went to the Jin law firm, causing a considerable sensation. There is indeed a lawyer in a suit and leather shoes waiting for Li Yunxi there. Li Yunmeng found out the next day that he had been accused. The reason for accusing her is colluding with fraud, colluding to coerce others into signing unequal contracts for profit and causing personal injury to the other party. She was also sued along with Li Yunxi's agent Qin Xi, as well as the entertainment company, which is her accomplice. Li family, upon hearing this news, Li Yunmeng cried bitterly and shouted for justice. The company I kindly found for my sister turned into partnership fraud. The contract was signed by my younger sister herself, and she didn't read it clearly. What does it have to do with me? The Li family was also very angry and let Li Yunxi go home to be scolded. At the same time, there has been another wave of verbal abuse against Li Yunxi on the internet. Hashtag white-eyed wolf Li Yunxi hashtag what a miserable dream hashtag brainless princess Cece hashtag good people are not rewarded well. These online public opinions, the hardy royal highness princess, did not care. After she finishes tidying up the people of the Li family, what are these clowns afraid of? Xie Jin escorted her back to the Li family. She had no idea where Xie Jin's car came from. Isn't it possible for a princess to have a car like this? The Li family is at least one of the 4 major families in the southern city, and it is not uncommon to have a luxurious estate in the priceless eastern city. After reading it, Li Yunxi compared his 2-bedroom living room and clenched his fists. When I have money in the future, build a better one than this. Xie Jin, who was driving, smiled. I couldn't bear to tell her that this estate was the accumulation of several generations of the Li family, worth over 10 billion yuan. Even if the Li family doesn't have many talented people now, those ancestral assets are enough for them to defeat 2 generations. The little girl may not be able to build such a mansion in the entertainment industry for a lifetime. Oh. Miss San has returned. As soon as the butler Chen Bo saw the person coming in from the main entrance, he let out an exaggerated shout. He stood on the doorstep with disdainful eyes, without any intention of welcoming him, and completely unaware of what was different about Li Yunxi today. Li Yunxi took a few steps closer and stood at the step, lifting his eyes to look at the middle-aged greasy man in front of him with a large belly. Although he was condescending, when he met Li Yunxi's gaze, the butler suddenly felt that he was half short. Xie Jin. Applause. Dare to disrespect my princess. Xie Jin knew that the little girl was addicted to the script and couldn't extricate herself. He thought about when to take her to see a psychologist, but now he still stood up. Slowly putting on the white gloves in his pocket, he took 2 steps forward and lifted the butler down. You. What are you doing? This is the Li family. I am the butler of the Li family. Xie Jin's response to the butler's obscene behavior is, Pa, well, that's great, left-right symmetrical aesthetics. The butler was still behind, covering his face and cursing, while Li Yunxi had already walked into the living room with the bodyguard. Yoha. The people came quite evenly. The old man of the Li family. De Fong and his wife, Li Han and Li Yunmeng. The second wife of the second room, Li Jiarui of the third room, and even her sister Law Li Min and her daughter Lin Miao were present. Li Yunxi walked in and turned a blind eye to the people who had sat around. She sat down on the chair brought over by Xie Jin, with her hands on her knees and a straight posture. Noble, elegant, yet cold and gorgeous. She looked around, her clear eyes as if she could see the depths of each of them. I don't know why, but the wealthy lady who originally wanted to accuse her of having no family education, also known as Lady Lai, the mother of Li Yunxi, got stuck in her throat with a sentence. Other people who were preparing to make a fuss also forgot what they wanted to say. Her gaze finally stopped at Mr. Li in the middle. I only heard the girl's voice cold, but her words were deafening. First of all, I have no interest in your 3 sessions today. 3 months ago, when you found me, I was already an adult with full capacity for civil conduct. The Li family was born but not raised, and because of our meager blood relationship and convenience for my future studies, I came to Nanjing with you. But I'm sorry, I overestimated the meager blood relationship between us, which cannot match the position of an outsider in your hearts. Therefore, from this moment on, Li Yunxi has no further relationship with you. Of course, if you must use the morality of giving birth to me to kidnap me, then you are even more sorry. I may not have morality. After she finished speaking, the whole room was shocked. What? Surprisingly, someone is leaving their family. Does she know what kind of existence the Li family is in the southern city? Mrs. Li swallowed the words she wanted to reprimand that were stuck in her throat, and she stood up nervously. Yunxi, what are you talking about? You are the biological daughter of your parents, and our blood relationship is constantly severed. Mom knows you have some grudges about your sister's situation, but can't you understand your parents? From now on, everything in the family belongs to you and your brother, but your sister is also our daughter who we raised for 18 years. We treat her better and treat you the same. Li Yunmeng, who was standing beside her, heard that everything in the house will belong to you and your brother in the future, and instinctively clenched her tightly clenched fist, with a crazy expression in her eyes. Are they all from Li Yunxi? What about her? Sure enough, such a family ultimately sees inexplicable blood ties, no matter how well behaved and excellent she is. How much her parents like her cannot change the fact that she is only the adopted daughter of the Li family. Li Yunmeng had no last trace of regret in her heart. Since there is her, there shouldn't be Li Yunxi. So she lifted her head, revealing her bright red eyes, and spoke softly. Yes, sister. You are the biological daughter of your parents, the true second miss of the Li family. When you come back, your parents invested in a web drama for you. Unlike me, I used to work hard step by step from running errands to now. When you said you didn't want to live in a company dormitory, your parents bought you a small apartment in the city center. You shouldn't say such things to hurt your parents' hearts. If you really don't like me, then I'll just move out. Li Hun finally couldn't help but stand up in anger. Li Yunxi. Can you stop acting like a troublemaker, causing trouble at home every time you come back? Dreams are always humble to you, what else do you want? Li Yunxi smiled, trembling with laughter. This is the first time the Li family has seen such a dazzling Li Yunxi. In the past, she always sat in the corner with a hunched back, head down, and trembling when talking to her. So, they all ignored that Li Yunxi was like this. Perfectly inheriting the strengths of Li Jiaming and Lady Li's appearance, it is beautiful and charming, and now it still carries an unattainable noble aura. Undoubtedly, she is a new generation of young ladies in the entertainment industry. My sister's acting skills are truly admirable. Unfortunately, you made a mistake. I'm not here to complain or file a complaint today, I'm just here to inform you. From now on, I, Li Yunxi. She raised her hand slightly, pointed to herself, and then scanned the room with her fingertips, saying, "It has nothing to do with you anymore." This is her second time saying that she wants to sever ties with the Li family. No one thinks she's joking. Because the expression in her eyes was too calm. No joy, no sorrow. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Lessons learned. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Lessons learned. Mr. Li, who had been quiet all along, tapped his cane and his sharp old eyes fixed on his granddaughter sitting across from everyone. Whether you admit it or not, you were born into the Li family. Today's words are just a child's childish joke. Don't say them again in the future. As the head of the family, the old man speaks with great authority. Even though Li Yunmeng felt very unwilling in his heart, He dared not say anything more at this moment. It was Li Yunxi, who looked at the old man in surprise. Really? So, am I from the Li family? But why could even one of the butlers of the Li family be able to manipulate and ridicule me? Did you do a genetic comparison when you came back to me? Is it possible that I am actually the adopted daughter of the Li family? Li Yunmeng vomited blood in her heart and said, She was shot while lying down. Mr. Li lifted his drooping eyelids. The eldest son, Chen Bo, is old, and his eyes may not work well. Please send him back to his hometown for retirement. At the door, Chen Bo, the butler who was covering his swollen and red face that had not been treated, wanted to wait for Miss San to leave before reporting, said, If you still have any dissatisfaction, just say it all at once. Mr. Li looked at his granddaughter, who looked completely different, and rubbed the faucet on his cane, unsure of what he was thinking. Li Yunxi let out a tisk. Why is it like a piece of candy that can't be shaken off? Behind her, Xie Jin coughed lightly. The gaze of the Li family was drawn to the tall bodyguard behind Li Yunxi. I just realized in shock that their family didn't even notice the presence of an outsider here just now. Although this outsider is just a bodyguard. The family's shame should not be exposed, even with a gentle temperament like Li Jiaming, he couldn't help but frown. Xie Jin ignored the unfriendly gaze of the Li family and handed over the file bag in his hand, hoping to tell her that the Li family was not without merit. At least it can make the enemy suffer and make oneself fast. Li Yunxi is not foolish. She didn't take the file bag, but instead lifted her chin in the direction of Mr. Li. I don't have much dissatisfaction, after all, in a sense, we are just strangers with some blood ties, but there are some things that even our brothers will take care of. These things are the gifts I received when I returned to your Li family. You can take your time to appreciate them. After saying these words, Li Yunxi stood up elegantly. Oh, by the way, Grandpa, if you have time, you can still come to attend my sister and me court session on August 27th. She asked Xie Jin to provide not only a copy of the contract, but also the chat records backed up by the police, as well as screenshots on Weibo and mobile phones. And a subpoena from the court. Then, without any regard for the others in the room, she left with Xie Jin and Shi Shiran. Grandpa. She's really out of place. Why are you still indulging her? The speaker is Li Hun. He couldn't bear to see Li Yunxi's haughty and imposing demeanor the most. What kind of thing is his demeanor? My hair is dyed like a ghost. I used to forget about the yin energy in the past, but now I still have a narrow mind. I know how to rely on the indulgence of my family to compare and target my dreams everywhere. If it weren't for him not hitting women, he would definitely teach her a good lesson. Upon hearing this, Li Yunmeng felt very proud in his heart, but still timidly tugged at his brother's hem. Brother, stop talking, that's our sister. Li Hun became even angrier when he saw Meng Meng speaking for Li Yunxi despite being wronged. He brushed away Li Yunmeng's hand and said to his parents. Dad, Mom, take a look. This is your biological daughter. When she comes back, besides causing trouble for this family, what else can she do? How much injustice has Meng Meng suffered because of her? Just because she doesn't say it doesn't mean she doesn't exist. Li Yunxi dares to drive away Chen Bo today, maybe he will also drive away Meng Meng in our family tomorrow. If we don't teach her a lesson this time, I think she will become increasingly lawless. Li Hun, that's also your own sister. Mrs. Li's expression was calm. The old man Li and the third old man Li Jiarui were holding the pile of things that Li Yunxi had thrown away. Except for the father and son, even Li Yunxi's biological parents and brother had no intention of taking a glance at these things. Upon hearing this, Mr. Li snorted coldly and smashed the contract in his hand directly onto Li Hun's head. Who are you going to teach a lesson to? A brother who doesn't care about his younger sister at all, but instead protects an outsider. I think you are even more lawless. Li Hun covered his head. He didn't get hit by Li Yunxi yesterday, but today he got hit by the old man. Should he say that he truly deserves to be his own grandfather and grandson? Li Yunmeng pursed her lips and sat there with her head down. If she had ignored the cold expression in her eyes, it looked really pitiful. His third uncle Li Jiarui also finished looking at the things in his hand and tisk tisk twice. I said, big brother and sister. In law, even if Yunxi was not raised by you since childhood, what's flowing on her body is still your bone and blood. Look at this pitiful sight. Miss Li from the Tang family has been scolded by the outside for what kind of behavior? No wonder they want to distance themselves from us. Isn't it like coming back or not? Hey, that's not right either. Maybe they haven't returned to the Li family, so there's no need to be deceived into signing such a sales contract. Nanjing University, that's not something that ordinary people can get into. After graduation, at least there'll be a company gold collar, right? A kind-hearted and upright person, the proud son of heaven, with excellent character and education, the hope of the whole village, ended up getting involved in the Li family's big dying vat. TSK, it's too tragic. Li Jiarui's meaningful gaze twitched around Li Yunmeng's head, and he saw the push early in the morning. His elder brother, the adopted daughter, has endless means, he is really amazing. However, Li Jiarui suddenly felt that his daughter's accusations against him yesterday were too unreasonable. There is really no such excellent father in the world, after all, he treats his illegitimate daughter much better than his elder brother and sister. In law treat Xie Yunxi. Li Yunmeng heard the third uncle insinuating that he had been deceived into signing a contract of sale, and his tightly clenched palm was almost bleeding from his nails. That's Li Yunxi's own foolishness. She just pulled a line, she signed the contract herself, it's none of her business. Of course, Li Yunmeng would never admit what he had told Qin Xi earlier, that her sister came from the countryside and was very hardworking, so he asked him to demand her affairs with the strictest standards. As for Li Jiaming and his wife, there was a momentary blush on their faces. It's not an honorable thing to be criticized by the uncle in front of so many people. But Li Jiaming still said gently, Jiarui, you're right. It's because your sister. In law and I don't care enough about Yunxi. His personality has always been like this, to put it nicely, he is gentle and polite, but to put it bluntly, he is indecisive. So far, he is only a shareholder of the Li family and has not joined the management and operation of the company. Now, the second son of the Li family, Li Jiaxing, is in charge of the company. Along with Li Yunfei from the second room, the true eldest lady of the Li family, also entered the finance department of the company. Both father and daughter are working at the company today, with only the second wife at home. Fortunately, Li Jiaming was content and happy, knowing that he did not have a natural talent for business, but rather had a strong influence on literature and art. No matter how hard the Li family tried, they would ensure that he and his descendants had no worries about food and clothing. Therefore, the relationship between Li Jiaming and the Li Jiaxing brothers has always been good. Li Han, on the other hand, always had his eyes above his head, thinking that Uncle Heir had no son, and that everything in the Li family would belong to him in the future. Mr. Li first looked at his eldest son. Find a way to handle Yunxi's matter quickly, otherwise you will be the first one I will teach you a lesson. Li Jiaming, who has always been obedient to his father's words, nodded in agreement, and he will handle it as soon as possible. Then, Mr. Li had a hard time expressing his anger towards this young son who had never been in a proper shape before. You're not young anymore. What should and shouldn't be said? You don't have any points in your heart. That's your own niece. Are you going to let her stay in that terrible place for a lifetime? Li Jiarui sat cross-legged on the single sofa, enjoying a smile. Come on, who doesn't know who yet? When have you had a rare relationship with your granddaughter? If it weren't for relying on Yunxi to establish a relationship with the Xie family in Beijing, why would you be picking her up? When he went to college, he didn't rely on his family anymore, so he had no worries about speaking. Mr. Li often felt heartbroken by his outspoken words. This time it was the same, but Li Jiarui was already prepared. While speaking, he stood up from the sofa and went to the place where the old man's cane could not reach. When the old man stood up in a fit of anger and wanted to beat him up, he waved his hand and walked directly to the door. "Look, not only are you not a rare granddaughter, but even my own son is not rare anymore. Then I'll leave. Don't keep calling me back when you have nothing to do, so as not to anger you." End of this chapter. Do you know each other in Chapter 6? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Do you know each other? On the other side, the two people who came out of the Li family. When the employer sits in the back seat, looking admiringly at the driver and bodyguard in front. "I performed well today. Let's go to the first people's hospital of the city." Go to the hospital. Xie Jin looked back in the rearview mirror with suspicion and said, "Shouldn't we go for a big meal?" Li Yunxi nodded solemnly. "Of course you need to eat a big meal, but aren't you injured? Go to the hospital first. After all, only by appropriately buying people's hearts can subordinates become more loyal to their owners." Xie Jin's pitch-black eyes flickered. Sure enough, the Miss Li from the countryside was not easy to find. That night, it was discovered that she had been injured. "But it's been 2 days since I remembered he was injured, it's really hard for her. I want to venture into the forest and dive into the sea with you. I want to watch the weather from sunrise to sunset with you." The faint ringtone of the phone rang in the quiet carriage, interrupting their communication. "Li Yunxi. What the hell are you doing? Look at what's being said online now. Don't worry about your lack of dedication to work. There are many adults in the company who look down on your sister and give you a thumbs up. How dare you sue the company? I really underestimated it. It's true that a dog that can bite people doesn't bark. I usually look gloomy and timid like a coward, but I'm not afraid. Since that's the case, don't blame the company for its injustice. Let's wait and see." Doodle doodle. The phone was hung up. Li Yunxi looked at the 4 words, "unknown number," displayed on his phone screen with a gloomy expression. As early as the night before yesterday, the original owner had blocked the phone numbers of the agent and all members of the Li family. When she left, she felt so disgusted with this world, disgusted to death, and didn't want anyone to disturb her. The night before yesterday, after Li Yunxi's live broadcast went viral, he started calling her, but couldn't get in at all. He used someone else's phone to call and was constantly intercepted by unfamiliar calls. Li Yunxi doesn't live in a company dormitory, and coupled with her previous timidity, she didn't even dare to tell her agent her specific residence. Every time she goes to the company, she takes a taxi by herself. Qin Xi also just got her address from Li Yunmeng yesterday, so he went there in the afternoon and was completely empty. This morning, Weibo was even more explosive. Li Yunxi even sent several black fans into custody and sued the company and her sister. Qin Xixin's volume was not low, and he had accumulated anger for about 2 days. As soon as the phone was connected, he couldn't wait to vent his anger. Xie Jin listened quietly and parked his car on a small path not far away where no cars had passed by. He turned around and asked her, "Boss, what do you want to do with this person?" Li Yunxi exclaimed, and in an instant, he understood his meaning, with a flickering light in his eyes. "Can you beat me up?" Qin Xixin is not like Chen Butler, who is right in front of her. Even though she has already sorted out the memories of the original owner in her mind these past few days, she still doesn't even know how to find him. Xie Jin met her shining eyes and curled his lips. "Well, the boss thinks it's possible. As a bodyguard, he is professional. Just take it for the sake of the little girl saving his life. Anyway, during this period, he will stay in the southern city to avoid the wind and recuperate." Upon hearing this, Li Yunxi immediately waved his hand. "Beat it. You must beat it. Dare to be so presumptuous towards this princess, and cannot be easily forgiven." His Royal Highness Princess began to think. Did you break his leg? Or two? He has such a foul mouth, why don't we take out a row of his teeth? However, beating people requires physical strength. As a master who sympathizes with his subordinates, Her Royal Highness Princess said. Let's go to the hospital first, then have dinner before going. Xie Jin naturally has nothing to do with it. The car restarted and drove towards the direction of the First People's Hospital in the city. Hello, I'm looking for Dr. Lin Jingran. The nurse on duty in the emergency room heard a refreshing sound and looked up. A young man and woman stood in front of her. The man is tall and dressed in a well-cut black suit, standing behind the girl in sunglasses. Even though sunglasses covered most of the face, the nurse still clearly felt the undeniable aura around the man. So much so that she couldn't even imagine that it was just a bodyguard and driver. The girl is tall and slender, wearing a beige long dress and a wide lace hat of the same color scheme. Under the hat, there are rose gold sunglasses, only revealing her moist red lips. She's a beauty. Still a cold and aloof beauty. This is what the nurse heard from the sound just now. Men are handsome and women are pretty, and they all wear sunglasses. Cool. Just like big stars. The little nurse's eyes sparkled and she quickly replied. Are you looking for Dr. Lin Jingran? He was on the night shift the night before yesterday, and today he happened to be on the upper half of the night shift. He just arrived. Did you get Dr. Lin's number? Registration. What is this thing? Li Yunxi's eyes were filled with confusion. That day, Chen Linjie took her directly to see Dr. Lin. Behind her, Xie Jin spoke in a low voice. We know Dr. Lin, and since he hasn't started working yet, we'll go find him directly. In the first half of the night, it is from 4 p.m. to 12 p.m. in the afternoon. The little nurse was immediately stimulated by the crisp and numb sound, which made her ears pregnant. She quickly nodded. Dr. Lin's office is located in the second room on the right side of this corridor. Xie Jin nodded slightly and said thank you. Then he said to Li Yunxi, let's go. Li Yunxi remained silent, thinking that Dr. Lin had stitched himself up, so they were indeed acquainted, right? Dong dong dong. Xie Jin walked ahead and knocked on the door of emergency room 102. Soon, a cheerful male voice came from inside. Please come in. It was Dr. Lin that night. Xie Jin pushed open the door and was about to go in to see if Dr. Lin was his old acquaintance when he suddenly remembered something and stopped in his tracks. He turned his head and saw his employer's cold gaze shining straight at him through his sunglasses. Okay, he's now the little girl's bodyguard. So Xie Jin led the way and made a gesture of please, gesturing for the little girl to go first. Li Yunxi let out an imperceptible cold snort. He still has some vision. She has a large number of adults, so she doesn't care about the fact that this guard just walked ahead of her. In the office. Lin Jingran was leaning against his chair, flipping through the medical records in his hand. It's not yet his working time, but he worked hard to grab a lunch at the hospital and came from home early. There are few bad things, said the woman. Seeing this colorful head of hair, Lin Jingran instinctively wanted to call out the title in his heart. The last word was so scared that I swallowed it back because I saw the person behind the girl. Jin. Brother Jin. Lin Jingran was too surprised and stood up from his seat. Not only did his voice change slightly, but he also began to stutter. Xie Jin took off his sunglasses and looked expressionlessly at the surprised Lin Jingran, nodding. Li Yunxi's apricot eyes narrowed slightly behind his sunglasses, and his interested gaze twitched between their faces. Do you know each other? The randomly picked guard actually knows the doctor. Interesting. Lin Jingran was about to say something, but he closed his mouth in Xie Jin's somewhat dangerous gaze. He heard the man's lazy voice and casually said. Well, I know you, I had my injury treated by Dr. Lin before. Lin Jingran glanced at the two of them and suddenly realized. Ah, right. Brother Jin's wrist and hand injury was also stitched up by me before. Then, he grinned dryly. He, little sister, you and Brother Jin are quite destined. Li Yunxi nodded without hesitation. It's quite a coincidence. Since we know each other well, you can show them again. I'll cover the diagnosis fee. As she spoke, she glanced at the shabby chair in front of her and her gaze fell on the only chair in the room. His Royal Highness Princess, who has been used to sitting on the soft and comfortable sofa of the Xie Dynasty these days, said how could he possibly sit on such a shabby stool again. Xie Jin understood in a strange second and lifted his chin at Lin Jingran. Bring your chair over to Miss Li. Lin Jingran. He was confused and moved his chair over, replacing it. Miss Li, are you sitting? Lin Jingran has known Xie Jin since childhood, and he surprisingly doesn't know when Jin Go met a Miss Li. If he remembers correctly, this little girl is only 18 years old this year, right? This is not a generation anymore, what are you still doing there? Lin Jingran was stunned when someone kicked him. He quickly exclaimed, oh, and followed Xie Jin into the diagnosis and treatment room inside. Xie Jin is taking off his clothes. He was really injured. The night before yesterday, while the little girl was sleeping, I casually took care of it myself. Hiss. Brother Jin, your injury is not light. Lin Jingran spoke and gave his elder brother Jin a thumbs up, saying in a strange and sinister tone. Your endurance is this. Lin Jingran looked at the 10-centimeter knife wound on Xie Jin's waist, and it was obvious that he had just applied some medicine casually. The wound did not bleed at the moment, but was swollen and purple. In his words, this is seeking death. Lin Jingran let out a tisk and skillfully took out a medicine box from under a cabinet in the corner of the diagnosis and treatment room. Not to mention, you really look like the one outside. When she came to the hospital that day, she also casually wrapped a towel around the wound on her hand. If she were infected. Before he could finish speaking, he was interrupted by the man leisurely leaning on the treatment bed. What wound? Lin Jingran was focused on picking out the infected areas with some pus inside and disinfecting them. When he heard this, he didn't raise his head and said. What other wounds can it be? Cut your wrist. At a young age, I don't know what I can't bear to think about. I really don't understand the preciousness of life at all. As he spoke, he also glanced up at Xie Jin. After all, among the people he knows, the most unlucky one is his elder brother Jin. Over the years, he doesn't know how many times he has helped him deal with injuries of all sizes. The most serious and even life-threatening gunshot injuries. Everyone in Beijing says that the young master of the Xie family is a disabled person who is not yet alive, but who knows what his elder brother Jin is doing in secret. Xie Jin didn't even notice Lin Jingran's angry gaze, and the words, cut wrist, still echoed in his mind. Proud like her, would she also cut her wrist and commit suicide? End of this chapter. Chapter 7. He's her whole person. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. He's her whole person. Half an hour later, Lin Jingran finally managed to heal the wounds on his waist and arms. Alright, since I only have this little skill, Brother Jin, please take it easy on your own. He clapped his hands, stood up, moved his slightly sore limbs, and then looked at Xie Jin with a furrowed expression. Hey, Brother Jin, what's your relationship with that little girl outside? Xie Jin casually glanced at him, sat up from the treatment bed, and slowly began to dress. Sorry. A girl's voice pretended to be calm came from behind. Xie Jin turned his head and saw a figure appearing next to the partition curtain. The broad sunglasses on the girl's face were still there, but Xie Jin could feel that fiery gaze, lingering on his chest. His face darkened and he quickly folded up his shirt. Why not wait outside? She did not misread, this person is just like Xie Jin. In the words of the Xie Dynasty, it means, looking thin when dressed, and having flesh when undressed, the flesh of muscles. Li Yunxi didn't take the seemingly blaming words of his own bodyguard seriously. He's all hers, what's wrong with looking at him? This is not dying. She heard that Chinese people are very open-minded, and there are also people who walk outside naked in the summer. Li Yunxi said, "Oh, I see nothing moving inside. I want to remind you that it's time for lunch. Is it because of a bodyguard that makes this princess hungry?" Cough. What is the lunch time? Lin Jingran suppressed the smile that had appeared due to the scene just now, thinking that the little girl's speech was really interesting. And that night when she said thank you to him, this little girl always gave him a strange feeling. Especially her haughty and domineering appearance in front of his elder brother Jin is very proud and charming. Xie Jin buttoned the last button on his suit jacket and returned to his diligent role as a bodyguard. When wearing sunglasses, no one loves them. Let's go eat. Lin Jingran saw that he had been used up again and threw it away, so he immediately quit. Hey, brother Jin, it's not easy for you to come to Nancheng. I'll be hosting this afternoon. Please join me, Miss Li. He hasn't figured out the situation in front of him yet, how could he just let the person go like this? When he finds out the situation, he can also brag with Qi Heng and them in the group. Before Li Yunxi and the others could refuse, Lin Jingran quickly took off his white coat. Walk around, I know there's a great store nearby. Li Yunxi recalled his experience of almost being knocked unconscious by the various restaurants outside yesterday noon, and nodded decisively. Okay, lead the way. On the way, Lin Jingran naturally took over the job of driving. He knew he couldn't find anything from Xie Jin, so he changed the subject of inquiry. Little girl, your mind is very simple. Hey, Miss Li, how is your hand injury getting better? Upon hearing this, Xie Jin's gaze also fell on the little girl's wrist, which was tied with a butterfly strap. If he remembers correctly, yesterday was a yellow butterfly. Today, it's beige. He thought it was paired with a skirt. Li Yunxi raised his hand and admired the big butterfly on his wrist for a while. Minor injury, no harm. Lin Jingran. If it's okay, then remember to come to me in a few days to get the cable. Be careful not to touch water or get infected. Li Yunxi looked ahead and politely nodded. Thank you very much, Dr. Lin Jingran said. No, you're welcome. How else are we chatting this day? Next to him, Xie Jin, the co-pilot, inexplicably curled his lips. The little girl's ability to chat with people can make everyone feel frustrated. Will Lin Jingran give up like this? Of course not. He laughed again and asked, Miss Li, how did you and brother Jin get to know each other? Li Yunxi's face remained unchanged. Fight. The confidence that Lin Jingran had finally built collapsed in an instant. Fighting. Fighting. Is he blind in his ears? Is it the kind of fight he thinks? So the colorful hair on the little girl's head is serious. So he didn't call her a delinquent girl wrong. At the thought that his brother Jin would also fight like those mischievous youths in society, Lin Jingran's hands shook as he drove. Those people are really not afraid of death. Before Lin Jingran could recover, he heard the little girl continue to speak. But now, he's my bodyguard. Lin Jingran. Lin Jingran looked inexplicably at the motionless man on the passenger seat. His elder brother Jin, at the age of 25, rebelled once. Not only did he fight like a delinquent boy, but he also became a bodyguard. The co-pilot glanced at him from the side. What's so surprising? Who wouldn't want to make a living? Drive your car well. That's right, but who is his brother Jin? Lin Jingran swallowed his saliva with difficulty, looking curious. By the way, Miss Li, how much salary do you offer to brother Jin? He wants to listen and see if he can afford to hire his elder brother Jean to be his bodyguard once in his lifetime. Salary. The girl in the back seat looked puzzled. Oh, you mean moon silver, dot. Her Royal Highness Princess is sorry that she has not considered this problem. So humbly asked Dr. Lin, if you're outside, how much does it cost to hire a bodyguard? Lin Jingran. Dot. Damn it, this is a proper intention to prioritize women over friends. He Jin Gu, the richest man in China who couldn't even catch up with him while walking his horse, surprisingly didn't want a penny and went to work as a bodyguard for a young girl. If it weren't for the purpose, no one would believe anyone else. Lin Jingran, who felt that he had finally achieved great success today, looked at the person in the passenger seat with the same gaze as he did at some monster. Fortunately, before Xie Jin's patience ran out, the restaurant arrived. Otherwise, Xie Jin couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't just kick this kid out of the car on the main road. This is authentic Cantonese cuisine, and the soup we make is unparalleled. Both you and Miss Li have injuries. Let's eat something light, nutritious, and healthy. Lin Jingran, who was familiar with the way, asked the boss for a small private room, which was obviously a frequent visitor here. Boss, there are 2 sick patients. Take a look at the dishes, make some soup, and there must be plenty of sweet and sour meat. The boss replied with a smile, okay, Dr. Lin, I'll keep the innermost private room for you. As he spoke, the boss's gaze swept over the 2 outstanding young men and women behind Dr. Lin, squeezing out a kind smile. Cantonese cuisine. Li Yunxi retrieved relevant memories from his mind. One of the 4 major cuisines in Nanchang, similar to Guangfu cuisine in Jiaozhou, the southernmost part of Dajing. The taste is light, the ingredients are diverse, the ingredients are numerous and clever, the dosage is fine, the decoration is beautiful, and it is fresh and tender. When she uttered the clear words on the recipes of these imperial restaurants, Xie Jin's surprised gaze turned to her again. If he remembers correctly, Miss Li from the Li family should have been brought back from the West City. Since childhood, her living conditions have been poor. How could she be so familiar with the cuisine in the South City? Lin Jingran. Sighed if I really sacrificed my boss for the lifelong happiness of my brother Jean. I have long since changed my mind and decided not to be the little prince of flowers. Now I have to put in a lot of effort to help the little fairy make a comeback in the entertainment industry. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. She has no money to buy a Navy Army. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. She has no money to buy a Navy Army. Lin Jingran didn't know these things and sincerely praised them. I didn't expect Miss Li to also have knowledge of Cantonese cuisine. Their family's golem meat has a truly authentic taste. Guluro. Li Yunxi still sat upright and elegant, carefully polishing these 3 words between his lips and teeth. I don't know if this glutinous meat tastes the same as what she has eaten before. Lin Jingran said, Miss Li, you're indoors now. Can you take off these sunglasses now? Speaking of which, he has seen the true face of the little girl. Although she looks pretty, but it's really beautiful. Li Yunxi took off his hat and sunglasses and placed them on an empty chair beside him, facing Lin Jingran's wide mouth. What's wrong? What's wrong? Lin Jingran quickly shook his head and said, no, it's not inappropriate. It's just too stunning. Suddenly, Lin Jingran slapped her thigh. You are that Princess Cece, isn't it? Li Yunxi frowned and corrected him seriously. It's Princess Xie. Her grandfather bestowed upon her a title. Lin Jingran took out his phone, opened his Weibo account, and pointed to the photo on the hot search. That's right, it's Princess Cece. The newly crowned Chinese goddess. That night, it must have been too dark and the lights were too dim. It wasn't because he was blind. Otherwise, how could I not even recognize such a beautiful woman? And the live broadcast of makeup removal, he watched it several times before and after. Lin Jingran has no other advantages, the only thing he can handle is his surgical skills and his sincere heart that cherishes fragrance and jade. Of course, Xie Jin thinks this is a disease. A disease that makes it difficult to walk when you see a beautiful girl. Oh my goodness. I hit a real person. Lin Jingran widened his eyes and opened his mouth with the word "oh," even more surprised than when he suddenly saw Xie Jin in the hospital just now. At the same time, Xie Jin's eyebrows and eyes moved slightly, and he also opened his phone. His slender fingers moved back and forth on the phone screen, frowning tighter as he looked. From time to time, Lin Jingran's rustling voice could still be heard in his ear. Ah! If it weren't for what I saw with my own eyes, I really wouldn't be able to associate this tragic face with Miss Li herself. Did you see this hot search, Miss Li? Did you really sue the brokerage company? If you ask me, this broken company should go bankrupt directly. Miss Li, your appearance is a waste of money. If it were at Xingtian Entertainment in our vicinity, you would have been on the fire long ago. What kind of dreamy and romantic things would have to be pushed aside? Lin Jingran took the mobile phone and went up to the little fairy to roast about those hot searches. He felt that his back was full of thorns behind him, and realized that he had almost leaked his words. To make up for it, he quickly said. So what, little fairy, are you considering changing jobs? Xingtian is definitely a conscience in the industry, you deserve it. Xie Jin just withdrew his gaze, but still frowned at what he had just seen. So, is it because of those online violence that she would cut her wrist? How despairing she must have been at that time, even a proud little girl like her would have committed suicide, or, is it because I died once that my personality changed drastically, always imagining myself as the princess in the dramas I've filmed? At that time, the original owner was very desperate. Li Yunxi didn't know, but now she is very desperate, which is true. This is the first time she has met such a noisy man. I have indeed sued companies, including my agent, as well as Miss Li Yunmeng. As for what you said, I am not very familiar with it at the moment. Lin Jingran looked at her with an expectant expression, waiting for her next message. Li Yunxi had finished speaking and looked at him puzzled. What? What other questions do you have? Lin Jingran. What? Xie Jin rubbed his brow and smiled. His voice is deep and magnetic. He asked you the following, told them, and then what? Li Yunxi blinked and said, of course, like those who curse at me, send them to jail. Yesterday, Sister Chen Lin also mentioned that the lightest detention for those people is 3 days, and the heaviest is due to having engaged in online violence against multiple people, with serious circumstances and facing prosecution and imprisonment in the near future. Now, before Xie Jin could say anything, Lin Jingran chuckled first. Fairy, this entertainment industry is not that fun. In this circle, where is there anything that is either black or white? Now the little girl is clearly being hacked even worse online, and even outsiders can see that the signs of the Navy are too obvious. You can't do this, you have to fight back. They bought the Navy to buy the draft, and you also bought it. Also, you need to change to a good agent. Look at your current agent, how you've been scolded. Lin Jingran didn't even have a good meal, so he put in a lot of effort and wanted to use his experience as the little prince of the flowers to help the little fairy wash away her stigma. Isn't it just buying hot searches and Navy? Let's buy it too. To have a verbal altercation, isn't it just a matter of who has more people? Unexpectedly, he was defeated by the fairy who said, I don't seem to have any money. I really don't have any money. The original owner returned to the Li family and did not request a bank card from her adoptive father. The Li family's monthly living allowance of 50,000 yuan to their grandchildren was also rejected by her for certain reasons. So, besides the house she lived in, Li Yunxi realized that she really didn't have money. Xie Jin couldn't help but laugh and cry at her words. Is that all? Do you still want him to be a bodyguard? So he deliberately smiled and asked her. I wonder when the boss will reimburse me for yesterday's lunch money. Li Yunxi rarely felt a bit awkward. Back in the day, she was also a person who opened restaurants throughout Dajing, but now she has ended up penniless. But soon, Royal Highness Princess looked as usual. Write it down together and return it later. Li Yunxi is quite confident in her ability to do business. Over time, she will not only become wealthy, but also build a better estate than the Li family. Lin Jingran's gaze kept spinning between the two of them. Although he was very surprised that Miss Li didn't have money, what surprised him even more was that Brother Jean would care about these 3 melons and 2 dates. Of course, what Brother Jean cares about is definitely not money, but people. So what, even if we can't buy a draft and curse back now, we can change our agent first. I have to entrust this matter to the experts, don't you think so, Brother Jean? Lin Jingran spoke and even gave Xie Jin a squeeze. Look, he's really an ordinary super wingman. Xie Jin. In the afternoon of that day, Li Yunxi had just returned home to continue chasing the historical drama she watched yesterday when a strange phone call came in. Hello, is that Li Yunxi? Yes. Do you have time now? I want to talk to you. Li Yunxi. Li Yunxi hung up the phone directly. She had heard that due to the advanced network communication, scams were rampant in the Xie Dynasty. Once a phone call like this was answered, the money in the phone would inexplicably disappear. Although she doesn't have money now. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Gold Medal Brokers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Gold Medal Brokers. On the other side, the top floor of Xingtian Entertainment Building. The woman sitting on the sofa looked at herself being hung up and said, "What?" She looked at the childish man who had turned a chair not far away with a captivating gaze and asked. "Mr. Gu, are you sure the number you just gave me was correct?" Gu Mingguang, the general manager of Xingtian Entertainment, was also stunned. He looked at his phone and opened the text message. Contact person. Boss. Arrange a reliable agent for her, with a string of phone numbers attached. That's right. He copied and pasted it, not the reported number. Lu Su also glanced at the text message and sneered. Ha! It's a bit unique. Undoubtedly, the person who needs the big boss to personally appoint a broker is very generous. Her impressive gold medal agent, I'm afraid she's not going to accompany any young lady who is a demon to experience life. Gu Mingguang heard this person sneer and shook his goosebumps. My aunt. Let me save dim sum. You can lose your temper here. Don't be a donkey when you meet someone. Lu Su sneered, I'm not sure if they're happy or not, but you're not sure. Her gloomy attitude persisted until the moment she met Li Yunxi himself. The phone, which had been hung up twice by Li Yunxi, rang for the 3rd time. Sitting on the other side of the sofa, Xie Jin looked at the distress message on his phone and kindly reminded her. Is there another possibility that this is not a fraudulent phone call? Li Yunxi's gaze shifted away from the TV and he glanced faintly, as if asking him. Are you working as a teaching princess? Xie Jin obediently rubbed his brow and told her. If you make fraudulent phone calls, you usually won't hesitate to make 2 or 3 calls, except for those with huge assets in your bank account. But obviously, the money in his employer's card is not even enough for a meal. So, after ruling out this factor, I will persistently call you, either because I really have something to do with you or because I am causing trouble. After listening carefully, Li Yunxi pondered for a moment and said. It makes sense, I have been taught. She did not misjudge anyone and was a good bodyguard who could promptly advise her master. When I have money, I will give you a raise. Xie Jin. Little kid, I have a strong awareness of fraud prevention. So, after Lu's agent called for the 4th time, the two finally agreed to meet at 8 o'clock the next morning at a cafe not far from Li Yunxi's residential area. As soon as Lu Su entered the coffee shop, she was attracted by the figure sitting by the window. Under the silhouette of the sunlight, the girl who was reading seriously had a cold and ethereal expression. "Hello, I'm Lu Su." Li Yunxi raised his head and looked at the very capable woman standing in front of him. He stood up and nodded politely. "Hello, I'm Li Yunxi." Lu Su suddenly breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that this girl was really the person she was looking for. Some people, with just one glance, you can tell that they are the kind of person you are looking for. Lu Su has been in this circle for 20 years, and has also been an agent for over a decade. It goes without saying that she has the resources in her hands. She has become popular among two top-tier actresses, and many top entertainment companies want to poach her. However, 10 years ago when Xingtian was about to go bankrupt, she did not leave Xingtian. Now that she has achieved success and fame, it is even more impossible. Because she felt that she had not yet met the person who could make her go all out for glory. But now, Lu Su feels like she has encountered something. "I have read some recent online reports, and if you are willing, I will help you handle everything." This is the first sentence that Lu Su said when she sat down. Li Yunxi really appreciated the other party's straightforwardness. "So, what are your conditions?" Lu Su smiled at the words and said, "You." Faced with the girl's puzzled gaze, Lu Su continued to smile and said, "Don't you know? You're the best bargaining chip yourself." Li Yunxi frowned. Although she didn't like the other party's statement, she also understood her meaning. Because she is profitable, she herself is the best bargaining chip. "Okay, then I'll trouble you." So, without hesitation, Li Yunxi agreed directly. Li Yunxi signed the contract with ease, so much so that Lu Su had nowhere to confide in. "You don't need to think about it again." Li Yunxi looked puzzled and said, "Why should we consider it?" She has been following dramas frequently these days, researching something called Weibo, and has already learned a fact. That's it, acting is very profitable. The original owner entered the entertainment industry just to become a shining person like that White Lotus sister and attract the attention of parents. Or, I also want some other people to see her. But Li Yunxi now has only one purpose. Silver. She needs to pay her bodyguards and build a large estate to move out of this cramped small cage. So she's very short of silver. Oh no, she's short of money. Quiet as a virgin, active as a rabbit. Sometimes graceful, sometimes playful. Lu Su has been silently observing Li Yunxi, trying to find a trace of what happened online from her. But unfortunately, it seems like two completely unrelated people. She has a premonition that as long as she is given 2 years, she will take her to an unparalleled height. Thinking of this, Lu Su is full of fighting spirit. Originally, Big Boss didn't mean to open the back door, but to have a keen eye for pearls. Lu Su immediately said, "Yunxi, I have analyzed the situation online recently. The other party's hot search was bought yesterday morning, and it has not been more than 72 hours of golden public relations time yet. In fact, I think this timing is just right. If we step forward too early, it may appear that we are too anxious. Is the contract still in hand? Let's start with the contract. You can send it on Weibo first, and I will forward it on my end. I will also contact the lawyer later, so that we can obtain more favorable evidence from him, such as the unreasonable aspects of this contract." In less than half an hour, the two of them discussed countermeasures. Li Yunxi is not very familiar with professional matters, but she can also understand the benefits that this approach brings to her. And wash away the stigma and keep her pure for a lifetime, so she opened her phone and dialed the number of her bodyguard. "Bring the contract over. Xie Jin is in the car not far away. This is a dead end." He half opened the car window, lit a cigarette, but didn't smoke it. He just placed his hand outside the window and let the breeze break the burned cigarette bit by bit. The little girl is not very skilled and has a good temper. She can't smell any other smell inside or outside. If there's anything wrong, just take her cold little eyes and look at you. Lu Su met him with Gu Mingguang, so he didn't show up to avoid any unnecessary complications. As a result, there was a moment when he looked at the phone in his hand that had just been connected and hung up after only one sentence. Xie Jin sighed and obediently took out the contract he had already prepared and went to work as a bodyguard. Big boss. Lu Su was also surprised to see the person standing behind Li Yunxi and began to stutter. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. True and False Daughters. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. True and False Daughters at Midnight. When the nightlife of migrant workers had just begun, Xingtian Entertainment's gold medal agent Lu Su reposted the Weibo account of an unknown newcomer. The darkness of the past is not scary. In the future, we will travel together. At Princess Cece. Thank you to my foster sister, Miss Li Yunmeng, for introducing me to such a good brokerage company. Below this Weibo post, a full 12-page brokerage contract has been posted, and the areas that need attention have also been highlighted. Sleeping slot. Is it my way of opening it? The agent of Luda, who has been silent for half a year, personally spoke up. Is this going to bring in new people? Not only that, but the protagonist is Princess Cece, who was trending a few days ago. Should I believe in Lu Da's agent's judgment or her ability to reverse black and white in public relations? Wait a moment, you didn't read this Weibo, did you? The harshness of this brokerage contract can be considered the ceiling of the industry. Even Zhou Pippi didn't dig like that, did he? Sure enough, the heavens are fair. Although they opened a door called Beauty for Princess Cece, they closed a window called Brain. Why did I pay attention to Princess Cece's words? Miss Li Yunmeng, the foster sister. Isn't Li Yunmeng the second miss of the Li family? Shocking my whole family. Li Yunmeng is actually the adopted daughter of the Li family. Forgive me for having already imagined a big show for a wealthy family. Me too. I even scolded her for being a white-eyed wolf yesterday, but the truth doesn't seem to be simple. It has to be said that the timing of this blog post was just right. In the middle of the night, when netizens were lying in bed, preparing to take a nap, it happened to be the time when their company and Li Yunmeng were unable to respond in a timely manner. This Weibo post involves both the popular flower Li Yunmeng and Xingtian's gold medal agent Lu Su. The content is too rich, so the fermentation speed is too fast. Soon, Entertainment Big V came out to interpret Lu Da's agent's Weibo post. Firstly, this Princess Cece has great potential and may have been signed by Xingtian, or even brought by Lu Da's agent. Secondly, Princess Cece was once tricked by her foster sister and signed a harsh brokerage contract with a sky-high penalty for breach of contract. Thirdly, Princess Cece's foster sister is a newcomer to the entertainment industry, Li Yunmeng, who debuted as a wealthy heiress. In summary, the blogger believes that this is a big battle between real and fake wealthy families. However, compared to the shining foster sister in the entertainment industry, the real wealthy are doing quite poorly in the entertainment industry. Diagram. A few screenshots of Princess Cece being lit with white candles under her Weibo, all kinds of friendly greetings to her. The earliest time can be traced back to 3 months ago, while the most recent was just a few minutes before she posted on Weibo. Because yesterday morning, after she reported her agency and Li Yunmeng on the hot search, netizens came to scold her. But now, looking at this contract and Li Yunmeng's identity as a foster sister, these words suddenly become ironic. An adopted daughter introduced a wild chicken entertainment company to Xie Jin. There were not many artists under the company, all of whom were internet celebrities, and she even signed contracts that were comparable to selling herself. Is it ironic that yesterday's hot search turned a real rich woman into a white-eyed wolf? Not only that. The next morning at 8 o'clock, the official blog of the Nanjing Municipal Bureau also issued a notice, emphasizing that the internet is not an illegal place and cracking down on online violent crimes. Several perpetrators of online violence, as well as their crimes and punishments, were also revealed in real names, with the most severe being sentenced to 3 years in prison. Among them are several black powder leaders who have taken the lead in implementing online violence against Li Yunxi. The lawyer Chen Lin introduced to her also stepped forward, analyzed the contract bit by bit, and finally concluded that the contract was invalid. He stated that his client also reserves the right to hold the company accountable for serious physical and mental harm caused by their improper behavior. According to internal sources, Princess Xixi's dignified appearance during her live broadcast on Crescent was forced by the company and her agent. How much injustice has my wife suffered? Tell me. Support me to the end. Li Yunxi's Weibo has gained followers. The number of black fans increased from 30,000 to 60,000. Half of it was because of her appearance. The original black powder turned black into powder, and a wave of passers-by who had been using her face. The other half was because they had scolded her and came to apologize these past few days. But it's already 9 o'clock in the morning. Li Yunmeng had just arrived at the company from home when her agent hurriedly walked towards her. Yang Gu. Li Yunmeng instinctively raised a sweet smile and greeted his agent. Yang furrowed his brows and directly asked her. Meng, did you watch Weibo this morning? Li Yunmeng was stunned for a moment and said, what Weibo? She went to the art gallery with her mother at 6 o'clock in the morning and stayed there until now. At this moment, she suddenly realized that she had just walked in all the way through the gate, and the way others looked at her was strange. Yang Gu saw that she didn't even know, disregarding whether it was in public. It's your sister, didn't she sue you a few days ago? So it's this matter. Li Yunmeng smiled brightly and said, don't worry, brother Yang. Isn't it just a lawsuit? Don't worry, she won't win. She has been the second miss of the Li family for so many years, will she lose to a rural girl with no foundation in the southern city? Ha! There is a way in heaven where you don't go, but in hell where there is no door, you come and venture. She wants to see how strong Li Yunxi's psychological resilience is, not to mention winning the lawsuit, it's just a matter of her words. The navy and hot searches she bought are enough for her to feel uncomfortable for a while, right? However, Yang's expression did not relax at all. It's not like we can't fight a lawsuit now. You can take a look at the hot search for yourself. The smile on Li Yunmeng's face froze. Is there any other twist? She suddenly remembered that 2 days ago when Li Yunxi returned to the Li family, he looked like a different person, and her heart was pounding. Li Yunmeng opened Weibo and looked at the explosive hot searches highlighted in bold. Hashtag gold medal agent partner with Huaxia Xinyan Cici princess hashtag shocking. The new little flower limb is actually a fake daughter. 2 or 3 things that must be said between wealthy and wealthy families. Who is the real white-eyed wolf? South City Bureau. Supporting Princess Cici's rights protection. After reading them one by one, Li Yunmeng's sweet smile on his face could no longer be sustained, as gloomy as if he wanted to drip ink. She lifted her head and looked at the agent with a gloomy gaze. When did this happen? Why didn't you call me to notify me? Yang Gu crossed his waist in anger and cursed back, do you want to see for yourself how many calls I've made to you? He was awakened by a phone call from his assistant at 6 o'clock in the morning, and after reading Weibo, he started calling her, but no one answered. Li Yunmeng wanted to say something more, but found that more and more gaze fell on him. She tightly gripped her palm, trying to calm her tone as much as possible. Sorry Yang, this morning I accompanied my mother to the art gallery. The mayor's wife mentioned that she wanted to see my mother's paintings and specifically asked me to accompany her. End of this chapter.